Hello, and welcome to Board Games and Coffee. Every year at Essen Spiel, hundreds of brand new board games are released, and it can be a bit overwhelming to figure out which one is the one for you to go for. I go to Essen Spiel every year, or starting 2 years ago, so this is my third time. And the purpose of this video is to look over some of the brand new titles that are going to be released this October at Essen Spiel, so you can get a sense of what about these particular games really stands out and whether or not I might recommend it according to my personal taste. But of course, mostly what I want to focus on is what are the key characteristics of these games. So, if you are watching this on YouTube, I am taking requests. Any game that you would like me to look at, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to go through the rulebook and follow up with a later video, part 3. Today, though, let me show you what I've covered so far, or what I've read so far. So these are the games that we've talked about. The ones with the check marks are the ones that I talked about in part 1. Today, we're going to be looking at some of these. So Agree to Disagree, Civillution, Fishing, Smoothie Wars, Tea Garden, Through Ice and Snow, Mesos, Captain Flip, and Castle Combo. If you want me to jump to any of these as we're going through those, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'm happy to cover whatever you would like, although I will probably keep this video at about 20 to 25 minutes, so that maybe go over about 6-7 games, spending about 2 or 3 minutes on each one. Lastly, if you would like to listen to this as a podcast, I will leave a link to the Board Games and Coffee podcast in the description of this video. So, first game I want to look at today is Civillution. So Civillution, I wanted to start with this one because at Essen there's usually a big, heavy hitter, popular game that's a heavy game. And I really get into the heavy games. So I like trying to find like what's going to be my favorite heavy game at Essen. Last year it was Evacuation by Vladimir Sushi, and this year I suspect it could be Civillution, which is a Steven Felt game. So let me tell you a little bit about Civillution, because this is a pretty complex game. It took a long time to read through the rulebook. But really what I like about this is it's kind of like a cross between Castles of Burgundy and one of these games that's very big on individual player powers, like Terra Mystica or something like that. But what makes the game really stand out is, unlike most board games where you start off with your unique player board and your unique player power, in Civillution, every player constructs their unique power over the course of the game. So they can construct all of their strengths and weaknesses and their scoring criteria. All of that is done during the course of the game as they add attributes to their race or their civilization. But the driving mechanic of the game is a dice worker placement, where dice are placed in pairs. I really love games that have you placing dice in pairs because it gives a really nice problem-solving space. You're not just dealing with the roll that you have, but rather how you're going to pair up your dice to make your actions be performed. And then, like Castles of Burgundy, there are a lot of different ways to augment your dice. So add or subtract 1 to the value, several different kinds of tokens that you can earn during many of the actions in the game. But the big driving idea is that you are constructing these pillars of cards that describe both the objectives that you're going to pursue during the course of the game and the unique strengths that you're going to pursue in this game. So I think the replayability of Civillution is very unique. I can imagine this game being very exciting to play once, to develop a certain civilization, and then after playing, whether you win or lose, wanting to play again, just so you can take a completely different path and do something differently. But I also really like the game because I like how it kind of it's a more in-depth Castles of Burgundy. And whereas I think Castles of Burgundy is a lot drier of a theme, this one is very engaging, very inviting. So this is one game that I might really enjoy. I at least want to try it. Maybe add that one to my collection. The next 3 games that we're going to talk about are all requests from the previous video, from part 1. So again, if you'd like to for me to go over my impressions of a game, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I will do it in a future video. So the next one, we'll talk about Captain Flip. So Captain Flip, this is definitely a family-style board game. In this game, players have a pirate ship that they're adding crew to, and there's a very easy mechanic for this game. You're just drawing a tile out of a bag, and that tile has a pirate character on it and an ability. And you get to add that to your board, and you can select where you place it. So the board is essentially a grid, although it's not a rectangular grid. The each, I guess we call it a series of towers. Really, in the artwork of the game, you're placing it on trees or masts, things of varying heights. So maybe one tower is 4 tiles high and another one is 2 tiles high. But from that grid, you've got rows and columns, and you're trying to place things in a way that they will score well based on what row they're in, the column that they're in, and the number of other tiles that you have. So this is a lot like Isle of Skye, for example, where tiles are going to be, have varying value for each player. But what's interesting about the game is that each time you draw a tile, if you don't like what you draw, you have the option of flipping it over and playing the back side instead. So there's 2 characters, different characters on either side of the tile, and when you draw, you must draw so that you can only see one side, and then it's up to you to flip and take the other side or keep what you see. So it's exactly equivalent of being able to draw 2 cards, 1 card face up and 1 card face down. Do you want what you see, or do you want what is a complete surprise to you? In that regard, I feel like it's fate decides this game. Really, you're taking a 100% risk on the backside of the tile. But what's cool is how you augment that risk by tile placement. And the game comes with different player mats, so there are a few different ways that you can change the gameplay. This is a very, very simple game. I like the artwork a lot. I think it's very attractive. The question of whether or not this is one that I'm definitely going to seek out, probably not one for me necessarily, just because the innovation in this game is not creating a problem space that is very interesting to me. The big question is, do I want to flip this tile over or not? I do like the problem space of how are you going to deal with the tile that you've drawn. I think that's really cool, but there are a lot of tile placement games. I get excited when I see a mechanic that's very unique. So this one doesn't excite me as much, but it would probably be very recommended if you've got younger kids, or if you've got if you're looking for a light game. And again, I do think that the character artwork is very charming on this one. So that's Captain Flip. And the next one we'll look at is Castle Combo. So Castle Combo is a tableau building game. You're drawing 9 tiles, and each time you take a tile, you have a choice of taking from either the top row of a market of 3 cards in the top row. Did I say tile? Cards. They're cards. You're going to be constructing a tableau of 9 cards, and there are 2 markets, top and bottom, kind of like Splendor, for example. And the top row represents castle cards, and the bottom row represents, I think, village cards. And so on your turn, you can either take one card from above or from below, and these cards have different abilities that will play against each other. So I think this game there's a lot of different cards and a lot of different ways that they're going to either give you coins for purchasing more cards or keys. So those are the only two resources in the game. You spend coins to buy the card, or you spend a key to refresh the market. And what's kind of cool about this game, I forgot to mention, the two rows, you don't always have the choice of buying from either row. Rather, on your turn, you can either buy from the bottom row or the top row. You can only borrow from one. And then at the end of your turn, if you took a card with I'll call it a switch indicator on it, then you switch the available row for the next player. So maybe you buy a card, and the effect of this card is that there's a playing piece that you use to show which row the players can currently take from. So maybe this one that you've taken lets you move the playing piece up to the top row, and now the next player must take from the top row. And depending on what they take, you may be able to take from the top row or the bottom row. It's always switching. So if you have a key, you have some agency there. You can spend a key in order to switch the available row, or you can spend the key to refresh the market. Either way, you're going to be drawing from 3 cards. You're going to add it to your tableau. You're only going to have 9 cards in this game, so it's a 9-turn game. I always really like that. I like games, especially when I'm playing with my kids, that are designed to be short. I enjoy that. But, and I would actually make a comparison between this game and Farm Club. Farm Club is like a 9-turn Cascadia, so to speak. So for me, because I have Farm Club and I really like Farm Club, I don't know if this game is doing something very new, and I kind of don't like it when games just kind of have very arbitrary card effects, what they all do. The artwork is cool. I like the castle theme, but again, I'm in a place where I'm not really seeing an innovation in this game that gets me very excited, but I can always use more like quick games for families. Anyway, that's the driving mechanic in Castle Combo. Next game, Mesos. All right, Mesos is coming from Cranio. Yeah, Cranio. Same designers as like Mirage and those games. But this game is a lot lighter than a lot of other games that come from Cranio. So what's this one all about? I wrote down that Mesos could be likened to like a super advanced King Domino. So if you're familiar with King Domino, I will give you an idea of what mechanic I'm talking about. So in this game, players are taking cards from a market, and again, you've got 2 rows of cards, just like Castle Combo. So the top row are going to be brand new cards that have just been drawn from the deck, and the bottom row are the leftover cards from the previous round, so the cards that nobody took. So usually the top row is going to be more valuable than the bottom row because no one's had a chance to take anything from the top row yet. So maybe the good stuff is still up there. Anyway, you want to take cards from the top row or the bottom row, and again, it's all kinds of different scoring things that's common for these kinds of heroes. But how do you take these cards? Well, you're going to, it's a kind of a programming style game. So you're going to place your worker on the turn order that you want to select cards from. And you've got several spaces. So the first space is first in turn order, but if you go first in turn order, you don't get anything, you just get food, which is a resource that you can spend. And then the second space is you get to have 1 card. You get to go, the first person to take a card, but you get 1 card from the bottom row. And then the third space is going to be third in turn order, but you get 1 card from the top row. And then I think I'm trying to do this by memory, right? As it goes on, the next card you get 2 cards, 1 from the bottom, 1 from the top, I think. And then the next one is, maybe it's like 2 from the top. And so each one, eventually you get three, you can take 3 cards, and it's one from the bottom, one from the top, one from the bottom, and it just gets better and better and better. But when you take that later action, you're going later in turn order. So even though you're getting 3 cards, you're getting the leftovers of what everybody else left behind. And then at the end of the round, after all of those cards are taken, some of those cards were never available to anybody in the first place, because some cards that come out are event cards. So the event cards are among all of these, and the event cards tell you what's going to happen to everyone's tribe. So you've got your tribe cards, and then you're going to face the event and use your cards to kind of like deal with whatever good or bad thing happens, and then the cards that no one took from the top row get moved down, and then a new set comes up, and then again, in the same turn order, you bid for the following round. So I like that. I really like the mechanic of taking your card or tile or whatever it is and determining turn order at the exact same time. That was first introduced to me through King Domino, and now I see it in this game, which I think is very cool. It reminds me a lot of another, like a Paleolithic type game where you were, where did it come from? I can't remember the name of the game, but there was another Ice Age type game that seems very similar to it. Honestly, again, it's another card drafting game. There's so many card drafting games, and for me to get another card drafting game, I want it to be very special. So this one is not doing it for me, not for me. But it's cool. And if you've never played King Domino before, and you want something that's harder than it anyway, I think this is a great choice. So that's Mesos. All right, let's see what's next. Agree to disagree. Okay. We've got Agree to Disagree is a party game. And I really like this. I don't buy a lot of party games, mostly because I like to review board games on this channel. But occasionally a really cool party game can be fun. And I'm sort of on the fence about this one, but not because it's not awesome, but only because I don't play a lot of party games. Here's the idea. The idea is you draw a card and it has a topic on it. And so like the active player creates a controversial question about that topic. And it can be all kinds of things, like it could, I don't know, like is a taco a sandwich? I don't know. That's probably a lame example. Or politics. I mean, it could be, well, actually, I don't think it goes into politics. I think most of the cards are like silly things. Like, I don't know, something you would never put in your carry-on luggage or something. You could think of something and you say, hey, this is something you should never do, and people make their opinions. But here's the deal. Everybody makes their opinion whether they agree or disagree with this player's completely made-up controversial statement. And then they do this privately, and they have a unique little device. And the way that this device works is that you've got 2 sides of it, and the 2 sides look identical, but they're not, because how they lock, they're like puzzle pieces, right? How these 2 puzzle pieces lock in together depends on whether or not they are opposites. So if one person said agree and the other person said disagree, you can slide those 2 pieces together and it will be flush. But if 2 people did agree, and I'm oversimplifying it here with my hands, then when you slide the pieces together, it won't be flush. And so because it won't be flush, you'll know that you don't agree, but you're not revealing to the other players what you actually chose. No one can tell what your choice is, but they can tell whether you agree or disagree. So if you find somebody who disagrees with you, then I think you get a point for that. You're trying to find people that you disagree with. And then you break off from the group, and the next person tries to find somebody that they disagree with. And people get well, they're not eliminated, but like people are scoring points, and as information gets revealed about who's agreeing and with who, finally there's one person left, and then everybody places bids on whether the last 2 remaining people are going to agree or disagree. And whether they're right or they're wrong, you get a point for that. So it's neat because you've already learned something about everybody else based on how you've put your opinions together, but you might not know anything about the last person. and you get to kind of take your bet on what they'll say, which is a really cool idea, and I think would be really fun. I do think that there might be a challenge in the game because the game does not include its own. At least this is my understanding from the rulebook. It doesn't include its own controversial opinions. It presents a topic, and then the active player presents the controversial question. You know, it requires some creativity there, but I really like the sliding together of the two pieces. I think it's really cool. All right. I think we probably have time for one more. But if you're joining us, keep in mind you can share in the comments either while we're running or after the show gets published, and tell me what you'd like to hear about in the next episode. Let's see what the last one is. Oh, fishing! Oh, I'm really glad. Friedman Freeze. I was so excited to see this game because he's the designer of Friday, which is one of my favorite solitaire games. Mind you, I don't actually own a physical copy of this game. I play it on my iPhone because it's solitaire. Like, why? I don't need a physical copy. But I love the design of Friday. So when I saw this, it's a trick-taking game by Friedman Freeze. I really wanted to look at the rule books. So what is this game? This is a trick-taking deck builder. Trick-taking deck builder. Doesn't that already sound cool? It's a trick-taking deck builder. So what do you got? You draw your hand, and you're playing a trick, and then the winner of the trick takes all the cards and adds them to their deck. And then you play out all of your cards, and then you draw your next hand at the end of the round. Well, once your deck runs out, you take your discard pile, you shuffle it up, you put it over there. So here's what's really neat. If you're winning a trick, you're winning it with the highest card, right? Like, your card is the best card, and all of the other cards are presumably worse than yours, unless they're off color, off suit. So you're getting your card back, and then everybody's worst card, and it's getting added to your deck. So in a way, as you're adding cards to your deck, you're almost becoming weaker. Whereas people who are losing tricks earlier in the game, they're losing tricks. Their hand has less cards in it, which is less points. But at the end of the round, after everyone's played out their entire hand, if you've run out of cards in your draw pile and you don't have a lot of cards in your discard pile because you haven't won a lot of tricks, cards from a brand new deck get dealt out to all the players who still need cards. And the new cards are better than the first round cards. So if you lost, you get your deck replenished with better cards, but you have fewer points. If you won, you have more points, but you might have worse cards. Does it make sense? It's a really cool balance, and it's such a cool catch-up mechanic, because I really think you can go either way. And then the best thing about this game is, in addition to that, you can play a card for, like, some of these cards have special abilities that can, like, mess with the results, right? So, I'm trying to remember some of these abilities. Like, one of them, don't quote me, right? This is all in my head. I don't have it all memorized perfectly. One of these cards is like, it's like the winner of the trick gets your card, but you get everybody else's cards. Or another one can, like, switch the result. Or they can all kind of screw with people. And I think that's super fun. So this is a trick-taking game that has some really clever decision-making to do, because you're, like, fluffing cards that are bad to hone your deck, but you're losing points when you do that. And I just love it. I think it's brilliant. I definitely want this game. I think it's awesome. The two games, so, in summary, the two games that I think are the coolest of this list are Fishing and what was the other one? Civillution. I really think Civillution is going to be cool. Those are games that I've marked to go after. All of these other ones, none of these games are, like, bad. I think they're clever. I question whether or not there's something really new that's going to make me want to buy it. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching this video, and please leave me your requests in the comments.